Hey, witches. So, I have had a couple people message me and ask me about protection spells and when to do them, how to do them, and if you need to do them repeatedly and just random questions. I thought I would do a video to answer all of those. So, first of all, I chose this image to do this video this way because the pentacle, for me, is the most protective symbol for us. I feel like we have lots of them, but I just always feel safe when I'm wearing a pentacle, which is not difficult for me because I have one tattooed on my body, but still wear, jewelry with it on there. But don't forget that it's a protective symbol. If you don't have one, please get one. I'm sure you have one though by now. So, first of all, the moon phase is not that important. It would be great. My throat is still messed up. If you saw my other video, you heard me making fun of myself. I'm not going to make fun of myself again, though, to save time. Anyway, the moon phase, not that important. Full moon, optimal. Yes, it always is for everything, but when you need protection, you need it now. You don't need to have to wait for a moon phase, so don't worry about that. What you can do, simple little spell. Very simple little spell, and this is sort of like just for personal protection. So take a plate. I like to use my silver plate with the pentacle on it. They have them at AliExpress. They're like $8. They're so pretty. I've got it in one of my haul videos. But take a plate. Doesn't matter the color. It could be a plate out of the kitchen. It doesn't matter. But that's just what I like to use because it has the pentacle on it. But take the plate and create a clockwise sprinkle of salt. You can use any kind of salt. I like to use black salt, but you can use any kind of salt. Put the layer of salt. Make sure you're going clockwise. And as you're doing so, make sure that you are focusing on the word protection. Even say it out loud. Then you're going to do the same thing with some sage. If you don't want to use white sage, that's fine because we shouldn't be using a whole lot of white sage anyway because it's endangered. If you do get it, make sure that it is sustainable. But you can use any kind of sage. Do the same thing with the sage. And then do the same thing with some cloves. And anything else that you have on hand that's protective. Okay, you might even put a few seashells, in each of the 4 directions because they represent protection to me a lot because they were someone's home once and it protected that creature from the elements. But anything you want to use, I love rue and angelica root for this. But maybe you don't have any, that's fine. Remember spells, you don't have to have every single thing somebody else says. So if you don't have one of those, that's fine. Just use what you have. And if you have more, use more. I make a protection blend and charge it in the full moon. That way, whenever I'm going to do anything to work with protection, it's already there. So anyway, now you're going to take a black or white candle. It just depends on you. Because you can use either color for protection. You could even use both if you wanted to. But you're going to take black or white. And inside there, you're going to write the word protection. Or, if you would like to, you can just draw a pentacle. Make sure you draw it the right way. There's a certain way that you have, a certain place where you have to start. And I'll link a little video below to show you how to do that correctly because believe it or not, a lot of people will just start, like normally where you start to draw a star. That's not where you're supposed to start when you're doing that. When you're invoking a pentacle, you don't do that. So anyway, be sure that everything is cleansed, of course, and consecrated. and make sure that you imbue everything with your magic. And that focus of your intent is protection. Make sure everything knows that. Okay, I probably should have said that first, but make sure you've got everything ready to protect you, because it needs to know what it's doing. Now, once you've done that, specifically say aloud the type of protection you seek. Okay, this type of little spell here is really just more of a personal thing, because you're just working it with yourself. But if you switch it up a little bit, you can ensure that you protect your whole household. So if that's what you're trying to do, what you're going to do is say aloud what you want to protect. Okay, is it people, items, what is it? Okay, as you're thinking of those things and as you're saying them, focus into the flame for as long as you need. Meditate on protection while staring into that flame. Because when you're doing that, you're pushing that energy out, sort of letting the magic out of yourself. And it's coming out through you, and then also through low frequency energy through the flame of the candles. So do that. And then after you've meditated a while, I would say, you've heard me say this before, 15 minutes minimum. If it's worth you doing all this, it's worth the 15 minutes of meditation. So after you have done that for at least 15 minutes while the candle's burning, what I like to do, you don't have to do this, and I'm getting ready to do an entire video about this, but when I'm doing anything for protection, a witch's bottle, anything like that, I always add my blood. And I will usually use my blood and then hair from everybody in my household, including my familiar. Everybody gets a little haircut. Normally he doesn't. I just pick it up off the floor, but I'll get a little piece, a little snippet of hair from everyone and put it in there. But you want to add your blood there to connect it to you. You can put the drop of blood anywhere if you want to. The way that I like to do this is, I like to, when I'm doing the candle, I will go ahead and carve it, and then I'll rub it down in my protection oil that I make, and then that already has some of my blood in it. But then I'll also prick my finger I like to use a lancet or a piercing needle, because they're really sharp, and put a little drop of blood, and then just anoint the candle with my blood. But you can add it in there anywhere, or you don't have to do it. You could just put a little piece of your hair if you wanted. You don't have to have a tag lock. But I feel like when you're doing protection work, a tag lock is important, because it gives a direct link between the magic and who is going to be benefiting from the magic. So the next thing that you can do is you can create an amulet for protection or a talisman for protection. They're not the same thing, but they're very similar. I did a video about the differences a while back. I'll see if I can find it. If not, I'll make another one. But they're not the same thing, but it's important to have them. So when you get them, first what you're going to do is you're going to take whatever item it is and cleanse it very well. You don't know who's touched it. You don't know how it was made. It's been traveling to you. If it's in the store, all kinds of people have been touching it. So definitely cleanse it. That's something that I would bust out my white sage for, which is rare. But use your sage and cleanse that. You can cleanse it in other ways, but I find that smoke is really one of the best ways, probably the best way to cleanse anything, because it looks cool, it smells good, but you can also picture and watch the air element take away everything from that item while you're watching the smoke pass through it, around it, and then away. You can watch it carry the negativity with it. So after you do that, you're going to imbue it with protection by rubbing it in your hands until you feel that energy pass. So you're going to just rub, and then maybe even hold it for a minute. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and meditate with it for a few minutes. You wouldn't need to go a whole 15 minutes, but maybe 3 to 5 minutes just meditating while you're holding it in your hand, focusing on that word protection and directing that energy to that piece of jewelry or crystal or whatever it is. So next, what you're going to do, this is what I do for my talismans and amulets. I want to go through each element to charge it. I don't just do one, I do all of them. So, and cleansing it doesn't have anything to do with this part. Yeah, I've already ran it through smoke, but I'm going to run it through smoke again. So now what I would do is take the talisman and take some of the protection herbs, put them on a charcoal disc in my cauldron, and then take my talisman and hold it over that smoke. And then speak aloud something like, I call upon the power of air to protect me from all earthly dangers, and then just make out a list of stuff that I want protection from. And then say that every time. You might even want to write it down because you'll come up with a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff out there that can hurt us, so we want to say as many things as we can, but do it every time you go to a new element. So the next thing that I do, I have some seawater. I brought a bunch back from the beach, and it is still good. It's supposed to go bad and go stinky after a while, but it's still good. So when I had that, and I still have some, but I just put the entire talisman down in some salt water, actual seawater. But you could use salt water, you could use moon water, you could use rainwater. I would not use tap water. I wouldn't use tap water, at least bottled water. And you can even add a little salt to that if you wanted to, some black salt. Stir it up with your athame and make it, a sacred water. And then put it in there. And then call upon the power of water and say the same thing. And then after that, take it and somehow charge it with the earth element. There are several ways to do this. You can just put it in a bowl of salt and just make sure it's covered and leave it there. You can take a crystal, set it on top of there. A black obsidian or any dark crystal or selenite would be good for that. What I do is I will take the talisman, and I do this with a lot of stuff, and I'll put it inside my cauldron or wrap it in some black silk or black fabric and bury it by the oak tree in my backyard for 3 consecutive nights. And then I'll go out and get it. I know that's extreme, but that's just what I feel called to do when I'm doing this. And I do that with most of my crystals and several other tools. I'm always burying stuff. My backyard has got so much stuff in it. But you'll take your talisman out. You won't leave it there forever. So anyway, so that's 3. And then the last one's a little tricky because you don't want to burn it, but you're going to pass it over a flame. So you'll either have a black or white candle going, and take that and just hold it high enough to where it gets warm. Don't let it burn. And I can tell you I have made some scorches on stuff before One time I was charging a little mojo bag that I had made and burnt a hole in the mojo bag. So just be careful when you're charging it with fire, but do the same thing. Call upon the element of fire, say your piece, and then you've gone through all 4. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and put it on. And you may wish to add blood to the water. I'm talking about blood still. I should save this stuff for my blood video, but the reason you would want to put blood in the water that you're using, or even just rub some blood onto your item, is because it's connecting it to your life force. That magic there's no question of where that magic is headed to you, because your blood is on there. So you may even wish to just rub a drop of blood directly onto the item. So that is up to you. Another thing that you can do, of course, making witches bottles, witches jars, whatever you want to call them, and then burying them. You can keep them in the house in secret spots, but you also want to have at least one buried outside. It's optimal to have one in the house hidden, and then one at the north, one at the south, one at the east, and one at the west outside buried. Nobody saw you bury it. Nobody knows where it is, and it is a secret between you and the universe. You are to be silent about those. If someone sees it, start over. So let's see. Children. So I put this in here because I have a daughter who's about to be 5, and I thought that anyone else that has children might appreciate this too. So if you have a child, what you can do is create and bless a little protective pouch. You're going to use protective herbs, the ones I mentioned earlier, and protective crystals, the same ones I mentioned earlier. Take those, and then and about the talisman, I forgot. Every month, charge your talismans under the full moon. I meant to say that, sorry. But anyway, get that pouch together. I give it some witch's breath, and then I whisper into the pouch what I want the herbs and the crystals to do. And then I definitely charge that under the full moon as well. And then put that in your child's room somewhere out of reach. Make sure they don't know it's in there. Even if you wanted to put it like under their mattress, you could. But just make sure that they can't find it. Because first of all, for safety reasons, and then second of all, for magical reasons. They don't need to know that thing is in there. And another thing that I do in my daughter's room is on her door frame. There's a little piece of selenite that I put up there. Just like a half of a stick. Just sitting up there. And you can't even tell it's there because the door frame's white. And then another little trick for the bag. Add some of their hair. Add a little of their hair into that protection bag for them. Not their blood. Please don't get blood from your child. Don't do that. But use their hair. Put a little piece of hair in there and seal it, and then you're good to go. So say you want to protect items. So you can create a talisman to place and hang from your rearview mirror to protect your car. And when you're doing that, you would go through the same steps I talked about earlier, or just pick one. You don't have to do all 4 elements. I just do that. That's something that I feel called to do. You may be fine going over with one element. That's your element. That's the way you do your craft. That's fine. You don't have to be like me. I'm just giving you ideas. So after you've got that talisman ready for your car, hanging in your rear view, but still drive safely. Remember, magic can only help us so much. We have to also not be idiotic in the mundane world. We can't go out there and drive 100 miles an hour and expect not to get a ticket ever. Might get away with it a few times, but eventually, what do they say in the craft? One of the times it's not going to be green, Nancy. So, yeah. be careful. Drive safely, please. All right, and then for your home. So before you do a protection spell on your home, it is best, you don't have to, but clean it up, sweep, mop, vacuum, get it tidy, and then smoke it out. Light some sage or do some protective herbs in the cauldron, go around with your hand or a feather, whatever you do. And start at the top floor, make your way to the bottom floor. If you have a basement, whatever you have, make sure there are windows open. It's getting warmer now, so we can do this. I cannot wait to air out my house. I was talking about it yesterday. So smoke it out, air it out, blast some positive witchy music. It doesn't even have to be witchy, just something positive. I like positive witchy music though, and I'll link really good playlists below if you want to use it. But have that going. You can ring a bell, whatever you feel called to do. Clapping your hands is a good one, just to get everything that's already in there out. So you're starting from a clean slate. So then once you've done that, place salt around the perimeter. And it's really best, because this is not like, where you're getting protection from yourself. It's really good to do this one on the full moon, to go outside under the full moonlight, especially if it's clear and you can see it. It feels so magical. But even if you can't see it, it's there. Go outside, just get a big thing of salt, pour it all the way around the perimeter of your home, all the way around, and walk in a clockwise manner, because you're bringing protection in, okay, clockwise. And then let's see, do that at least every 3 months. One other thing that I do is, if I sweep the house and it's not a whole bunch of things that are going to hurt the environment, like if it's mostly cat litter, cat fur, a little bit of cat food, maybe a little sprinkle of glitter here or there, I'll take that and I'll walk out by that oak tree in my backyard, and I will put it there, and I will ask Mother Nature to turn it into something positive. And it's one of the most, it makes me want to clean. It makes cleaning magical for me. And if you don't have any type of protective floor wash, buy some. You can also, if you don't want to buy any and you have protective herbs, you can boil those down, make a nice strong tea, and then strain the stuff out. Take that, give it back to Mother Nature and Mother Earth, and then put the tea in your mop water and mop with it. Definitely important. So I think that's it about protection. And if you have any other questions, I'll leave the comments on. But that's pretty much it. I mean, just figure out what you want to protect. How are you going to protect it? And use the right protective herbs, protective crystals. But the most important thing about protection is that you believe that you are protected once you've done these things. If you're still wandering around being panicky, having anxiety, and being scared of things that you shouldn't be scared of, you're not letting the magic work. You're creating a roadblock for yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you are having severe anxiety, I'm getting ready to do a quick video on how to use magic to help with that. But if you're strong in your protective magic, it really should help with your anxiety. It should. So let the magic work, and don't be paranoid that it's not, because then it's not going to work. But that's all I have, witches. Like, subscribe, and share. Blessed be.